everyone. Welcome back. We are here with the nonprofit, The Ring of Democracy. I work for The Ring of Democracy, and it's ring like a boxing ring. Democracy, as in everyone deserves a voice. And so, what we're doing is we are making sure that people can empower themselves to make it easier to advocate for themselves in the different arenas of life. So one way that we do that is in the arena of civic engagement. So today we have with us Victoria Vasquez, who is running for Sacramento City Unified School District Area 4. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So today we are here to just give the voters an impression of who you are, but not just who you are as a person who's running. Who are you as a person? Who are you as a parent? I believe you have a child or kids.
I do. I'm a girl mom. I have two daughters. One of them started at UC Davis last week for her freshman year. Very, very proud. And the other is a junior in the district.
Yeah. So tell me about yourself. Like, who are you outside of being a candidate?
Sure. So outside of being a candidate, I am a mother first. I have two teenage daughters. So I'm in the teenage years, if you will. I am a long-term Girl Scout troop leader. I led a Girl Scout troop for the last 11 years until my daughter graduated this spring. So that was probably my favorite volunteer experience, was being a troop leader, especially through our COVID pandemic. Keeping our troop together and consistent was really important to me. I'm very impressed with the young women who are in my troop and their trajectory in life with that solid base of Girl Scouting. I also sit on the board of a nonprofit that puts skateboarding on junior high campuses, which is wonderful, called Project Lifelong. It's a peer-led mentorship type model. So high school students mentor junior high students and teach them how to skateboard, kind of ease that transition into high school, and destigmatize a sport, which is really requires a lot of self-determination and patience and practice. So I'm very proud of my work in increasing the participation to over 51% female by making sure that representation was happening in the advertising for the nonprofit. So really proud of my work with alternative sports with our youth. And I also love to garden. I work in urban forestry for a living. So for a living, I'm a grants and public policy manager for the environment, for environmental justice and causes. So I love what I do every day, and I'm very lucky to do so.
That's great. And then I think you're also on the Parks Commission, is that right?
I am, yes. So I'm who I am as a person. I'm also the chair of the City of Sacramento Parks and Community Enrichment Commission. So this is my second year as the chair. I spent a year as vice chair. And it's really wonderful to be, I'm appointed in District 6 by Councilmember Eric Guerra. And just being able to have the connection with the communities that I serve. I've made lifelong friends working with neighborhood associations and community members and nonprofits who are serving our parks in Sacramento.
I like that you said that you're a mom first.
Yes.
So how has being a parent kind of influenced, how has it informed your approach to the school board leadership?
Absolutely. For the last 14 years now, because my daughter went through early kinder and then kinder, so more than 12 years there, I've been on the parent side of things. And with the analytical eye that I described as a public policy and grants manager, I was able to take my experience as a mother, find what my students needed, ask for it, and in many instances not receive it. So I have tried to advocate for making sure that my students were receiving the services that they needed. And when they weren't, offering myself as a resource to go out and find how other school districts are doing it, bring that back to my district, work alongside principals, teachers, and district staff to make sure that these things are happening for our students. And when I found that I was hitting some roadblocks when my children were very young, I authored, along with the SUSD Council, a food allergy policy for the district that is in place now to protect all students and staff in case of anaphylactic reaction. So I've been through the process of helping to make sure that policy keeps children safe, not just that policy, but any policy that could protect students. And then we took it statewide. So currently, because of the advocacy of my family, each California school now stocks life-saving epinephrine.
Wow.
And as my children got older, we moved schools quite often looking for a safe place. So we started off at a school, we moved to another school, we did a year of homeschool, we moved to another school, then we moved to a junior high, and we have a principal change, and we moved to another high school and another high school. So my family has attended a lot of Sac City Unified Schools looking for not just a safe place, but an inclusive environment and a very robust learning environment. So I want to make sure that by running on the school board, we can find those three things for each family, that you can go to your local neighborhood school and you're going to find a great curriculum, an inclusive environment, and a safe place to be.
So you said that you've worked, well, as a parent, volunteering in a lot of different school capacities. How would you say that parents and teachers and the school board can work a little bit more closely together? And have you seen any examples of that?
Yeah, I think we're in a new place. I think we're in a positive place. I think over the years, I've seen a lot of parents leave the district. I've seen our enrollment rates drop, and I haven't been surprised because families that I was very good friends with who were not receiving special education services, health services, 504 and IEP implementation would get really frustrated when at the school site level they weren't being served. They'd go up to the district level, which lacked capacity to continue to serve, and they would just leave in order to find a safer, more inclusive location. So I want to make sure that going forward with our new superintendent and a new relationship that we have between our teachers and our staff, that we can get to a place where everyone feels supported enough to implement safe special education services and health services and education for all of our students. I do have a hope that we can go forward in a more positive way and build that connective tissue between these board policies that are derived with so much care and the actual implementation in the classroom. I have seen a gap in that in the past, and I want to make sure that the communication that's happening between the board, those policies, the teachers and staff is clear enough so that everyone can rise to the occasion because they understand what they need to be doing.
I see. So funding has been cut for education, and our underserved communities have been hit the hardest. So as a school board member, how would you ensure that this funding for services is being used in order to benefit these underserved communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, in the state of California, our budget is reallotted every single year. So it is a short-term process. It's a one-year process. And as soon as that budget comes down for education and we know what it's going to be, then we have to look at it really closely. And we have to make that decision for the year. We cannot predict what those funds will be from year to year. And that's something that I deal with as a state nonprofit manager, is that yearly turnover of funds. Making sure that our neighborhoods who are already hit the hardest, in the best year, they're already hit the hardest. In Area 4 specifically, we have a lot of schools that have low-income families. And when we have a low-income family, we lack things like the ability to volunteer to do the PTA. If you're working 2 jobs and you're struggling to support your family, being able to volunteer at the school is not going to be high on your priority list. That doesn't mean you want less of an education for your student. It doesn't mean your student should not be able to go on field trips because you can't afford to pay for a field trip. So as a member of the school board, creating that equity protocol for our low-income schools, no matter what the budget is that year, is important. And I do feel that we could have relationships that are built between schools. I'll give you a really good example of West Campus and Mark Twain Elementary. We have the most of the most and the least of the least on the same property. I would like to see something like a mentorship program from the Foundation of Excellence, which is what the PTA is called at West Campus, to mentor a group of parents to start a PTA for Mark Twain so that the disparity is not so great. I feel that we can, as parents who have the time to volunteer, mentor those who just need to understand how to do it so that we can make sure that we're engaging our community nonprofits and our community businesses to provide those wraparound services. I see as a community leader and a networker and a community organizer, I know there are people out there who want to support schools. You don't have to be a parent to want to help schools. And if we are tapping into these relationships and building these cross-sector relationships, then those PTAs who need a little more help are going to have built-in supporters throughout the school year. So I feel like community connection and mentorship is a really good way to start providing for our low-income schools and prioritizing funding for improving school campuses. If we are not using an equity lens when we're directing our funding to improve school campuses, then we're not serving anyone at all. A school campus is in a neighborhood. It's not just an island on its own. So we have a lot of ways we need to come into compliance by special education, accreditation, but also by our campus environment. You might not know that there are state laws that require a certain percentage of tree canopy on each school. And that's because that tree canopy protects our children, not just from extreme heat and air pollution, but also encourages self-motivation. There's a lot of research that green space is calming and productive in our young people. So making sure that we're in compliance in our facilities and our spaces goes from the gym to the library to the classroom out to the playground and in the surrounding community.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we just have a couple minutes left, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk directly to the voters.
Great.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to speak to this red light here, and I want you to tell the voters why they should vote for you over your opponents and how they can find more information.
Wonderful. I can do that. First of all, to anyone watching this, thank you so much for taking the time to make an informed decision. I know there's a lot of ways that you could be spending your time. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm really grateful that you're going through this process so that you can make an informed decision. So good on you. My website is victoriain2024.com. That's where you can find out more information about me. And the reason I think that you should vote for me is everything I've done in my life has led up to this moment. Being a Girl Scout troop leader and helping a troop all the way from kindergarten through COVID and into high school, and understanding the pressures that our students and families have gone through during the COVID pandemic. Being a public policy and grants manager and helping a network of over 100 nonprofits across the state of California implement grants and state funding and state reporting. Being the chair of a very large constituency here in the city of Sacramento, talking to residents, talking to community members, talking to nonprofits, talking to youth programmers, understanding and being approachable enough that people reach out to me and making lifelong friends in the process, and being very invested in my daughters and the rest of the students in Sac City Unified, never having to go through meetings that I've already gone through. I've gone through a lot of rough years with Sac City Unified. I do see positive change coming. I do see relationships building, and I want to make sure that my unique experience in the district is used and tapped to make sure that we can solidify processes and compliance going forward so that everyone feels safe, included, and incorporated into the school district, which is a paramount part of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today. This has been Victoria Vasquez. I'm sorry, am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's Vasquez. Thank you for asking.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Thank you, Victoria Vasquez. And we really appreciate you sitting down with us and taking the time to speak with the voters. Once again, my name is Scarlette Bustos, and I work for the Ring of Democracy, and you can find more information at theringofdemocracy.org. Thanks.